in this video, I'm going to share with you 7 critical life lessons that came my way in 2024. Okay, this is based on a longer form newsletter that I wrote that I sent out to my email list, but I know not everybody follows me there, so I'm going to dive into it in this video as well. Okay, this is a real melting pot of lessons. Some of them are business related, some of them are life related. Being a dad, figuring out some of my own shit. I just turned 34, so different seasons of life present different challenges, and let's dive into them. Okay, so the very, very first one is responsibility. All right, now as you get older, more and more responsibility is going to come your way. I think that's just the way that it is, typically. Depending on your life choices, obviously, but I would say as a general rule. Okay, now this was a very recurring theme for me in the new year, in 2024, and is very present now as we head into the new year. From scaling a business, being a dad, trying to be the best partner possible, managing my own physical and mental health, and making sure that that's sharp so that I can operate. Unfortunately, we had quite a few different family health challenges with my parents and my granddad through the year, and pretty much everything in between. It can become a lot. And so this idea of responsibility has been on my mind a lot lately, particularly through the second half and into Q4 of 2024. And it's interesting when these topics are on your mind, other things seem to happen around it, right? And so I had this question come in from a private client, Inner Circle, lovely young guy who operates in the French market, and I've worked with him for several years at this point. We've done some awesome work together. And he said, Jacob, how do people handle massive responsibility with such apparent ease? And I might make a separate video on my kind of full answer, but I wanted to include the salient points here. I think first and foremost, the external presentation of ease doesn't necessarily mean that that's a reflection of the internal. But what I said to him in a nutshell, and this is really a big perspective shift that I had in 2024 about responsibility, is that it's not a burden, it's not an obligation, it's not something to be perceived negatively. Look at those fucking balloons going off. It's not something to be perceived negatively. It's actually a privilege, and it's actually the increase in responsibility, I think, is a really, really good indicator, probably a lagging indicator, that you're moving in the right direction. Okay, because more responsibility comes to you when you prove that you are capable, right? Your family will come to you for help with things when you prove that you are capable. You will have more clients coming on board when you prove that you are capable and you are good at what you do. You will be able to take on new investments, new business opportunities, right? You start a family when you are capable of doing those things. And so I think it's a really, really good sign that you are moving in the right direction. And the best and only way, in my opinion, to look at all this is that it's an absolute privilege that you get to take on this responsibility, and it should be a very, very positive and a very, very empowering thing. Okay, now with that said, I realize that there's times where shit can feel really chaotic, right? And when we're in these times, we get into the middle of the day and things are happening that feel really, really out of our control. Okay, and so through these periods, for me, the biggest thing is controlling what I can control and really anchoring down my morning routine, clear routines throughout the day, and strong boundaries. This is boundaries in life and boundaries in business. What this allows is it means that you start and end the day on your terms. It means that you've got clear rules in place around how you're going to operate, and it gives you some control in these periods where it feels like a lot of stuff is happening that is outside of your control. And this really becomes a strong foundation when it feels like the rest of the world is somewhat spinning. Okay, and so here's the big lesson around responsibility, right? It's not about finding ways to carry less. It's not about finding ways to not take on responsibility, because I think it's actually really important that we do. But rather, it's about becoming strong enough to carry more, aka becoming more and more capable such that you can carry the weight of that responsibility. And I don't say weight in a negative sense, I just mean being able to carry it, right? And if you look at pretty much anyone through history who's achieved something great or has done something unique or has done something different to the norm, it came with a significant amount of responsibility, right? Now, I don't want an average life. If you're watching my content or any content in this vein online, you probably don't want an average life either. You don't want to follow the standard path and be put in a box. And you've either taken that step out already, or you're in the process of doing it, or you're thinking about doing it. And I can tell you that, and you very well may know this, that path is paired with significant responsibility. Okay? However you choose to define what a good life is, or what greatness looks like, or what it is that you're trying to build, and the path that you're carving, there's going to be a significant amount of responsibility over and above a standard, average, normal life. Okay? And so this path requires the assumption of that responsibility, and the only way, in my opinion, to look at it is that it's a privilege, and that it's a really, really good sign that you're moving in the right direction, because it demonstrates that you are capable, because this responsibility is coming to you and you are able to take it on and handle it. Okay, something I'm going to share more on 2025. It's a fresh topic for me in terms of really thinking about this at a deeper level, and that's number one. Okay, number two, all in is bullshit. All right, I've spoken about this in other videos, but this year really hammered home to me the truth that I've been preaching for a while, which is that going all in on a business is a bit of a silly move. I've seen people make a lot of money and then they get stuck, right? They get stuck at a certain lifestyle. They get stuck working certain hours, and the internet glorifies this all-in approach, when actually I think it's the easiest way out. You're taking the easy way out. If you focus only on a business and neglect everything else, that's not something to be applauded. I think it's a massive mistake. And so a profound shift for me around this has been thinking about, and I've got a separate video on this, has been thinking about life and business and all the other pillars that roll into that as empire building as opposed to business building, right? It might be a little bit of a funny analogy, but I like it. I find it's a really empowering, like the responsibility thing we just spoke about. I find it's a really empowering way to look at things. Okay, think about you're a medieval ruler, right? And you've got your empire, your village. You can't just focus on the town's finances while the defenses are crumbling, right? Or you can't just obsess over security and defense while the food supply is running dry. You have to look at things holistically. You have to manage all of the areas. And I believe that's the way that you should be looking at and tackling life, right? Business isn't this one separate thing that you can just put all your energy into and neglect everything else. You are going to pay a serious price if you do that. It's a critical part of the empire. It generates the cash flow, right? And ideally generates you significant enjoyment and fulfillment if you're working with people that you want to work with, right? Your family isn't there to compete with your work. They're the cornerstone. They're the reason that you're doing all this, right? Your health can't be something that you'll get to later on. It's got to be the foundation that everything stands on. Otherwise, you may not get to that point if your health's not in check. Okay? And so, in my opinion, true success isn't about sacrificing everything to scale the biggest business. In my opinion, it's about finding a way to integrate all those things to operate together. And I really like this empire building framework. Okay? Number 3, holding the line. All right. Now, if you're tackling your own path, like we've spoken about, and not just following the mold, you're going to have people who tell you that you're crazy. You're going to have people that don't agree with what you're doing, that tell you certain things aren't possible, right? And that'll happen at the start, and that's going to happen when you get deep into the game as well. I've watched a lot of people get swept up in whatever is trending. It's been AI lately. Crypto's had a resurgence post the election, the latest funnel, the latest this, that, and the other thing. They aren't clear enough in who they are, what they want to do, and they don't have the strength to hold the line when the latest thing comes around. Now, sometimes they move early enough and it works out for them. But a lot of the times they lose momentum, and they get blown significantly off course. Okay. And when I look at the people that have been in this game for a really long time, maybe they haven't made the most money overall, but they've had stability, certainty, they've got a strong brand, they've got a strong reputation, right? When I look at these people, they've got a very clear set of rules that they've developed and established for how they play the game, and then they hold the line. They do not deviate on those. They're clear on who they want to work with, they're clear on their boundaries, they're clear on their values, they're clear on their principles, all these kind of things, right? So in my world, this is like simple high-ticket offers, chat-based sales, a clear calendar, Monday, Friday, no calls at all. They're me days, focus on relationship building, being able to travel, time freedom, location freedom, all this kind of stuff. A lot of time with my family, and finding a harmony and a balance amongst all those things. That's what's really, really important for me, right? And I've had a lot of people, challenge me on the way that I do things, and that's fine. But the moment you start to bend or cave on your principles to follow the crowd is the moment you're ultimately losing what is really special. When I look at the people that I've paid the most money to, they're the people that have blazed their own path, are very clear on who they are, what they do, and how they go about it, and what they value, and then they stick to it ruthlessly and relentlessly. Okay, and this isn't just about business. This flows into everything else, right? This flows into your life, your non-negotiables, the way that you want to show up. There is going to be constant pressure to fit back into a mold and to go with where the crowd is going, right? And your job, my job, to be really clear on who we are, what we want to do, what we're building, our vision, and then hold the line as much as possible. Okay, another big lesson from the year. Number 4, network more. So I had this epiphany through the year. I've worked with a lot, I've been exposed to a lot of different businesses over the last 14 years. I'd say there's very few people online who have the breadth of experience that I do in terms of different business sizes, from helping like mums and dads make their first $100,000 online to working with multi-billion-dollar, New York Stock Exchange type companies either in bankruptcy or headed for bankruptcy. I've been exposed to a lot of different situations, and when you meet a lot of people successful and on the way up and trying to figure it out, it's hard not to analyze and ask questions. And one thing I realized was that people who succeed have generated a lot of proximity between themselves and other successful people. Okay. And so this is really the power of networking and the power of being able to be around the right people. Just as I think your personal brand is something that is so critical, I think your network sits up there right along it. Okay. This led to me launching a new offer in Q4 called the Millionaire Leaders Network. And what this is in a nutshell is me bringing my network that I built over however many years online to people for pennies on the dollar by comparison to what they'd normally pay to be in a $10, $25, $50, $100,000 mastermind, so that they can get access to these elite level operators at a significantly lower investment. And it is so that they can aggressively grow their network a lot faster. All right. All it takes, one connection. Just like on one of these calls, one line, one sentence. We had 2 guests come in December who were both unbelievable. And all it takes is one line, and it can lead to insane results. Okay. So I've been aggressively ramping up my networking through 2024, and that's going to be a big part for 2025. Might be something that you want to think about. Okay. Moving on to number 5, create momentum and get excited. All right. So right now for a moment, I just want to speak specifically to anybody who is heading into the new year feeling a bit foggy, hazy, not clear, right? You've got 2 options. You either sit and try and think your way to a solution, or you give yourself a brief moment to reflect, and then you move and course correct in real time. I'll tell you, the second one is the only option. If you try and intellectualize your way to a perfect solution, you are going to get seriously stuck. I've seen it happen time and time again. Momentum beats meditation. Okay? So when you're not sure what to do. Give yourself that little moment to reflect. Build a rough plan based on everything that you've got in front of you today, based on what you know, your experience, the resources that you can accumulate. What's the best plan of attack? And then start moving. Do something, do anything that creates forward momentum. It doesn't even matter if it's in the right direction. Just start moving forward. Okay? The clarity that you're seeking is on the other side of the movement, not overthinking this for another day, week, month, quarter, year. Right? And I know there's people out there who spent all of 2024 overthinking something. You can iterate as you go. I had a mentor who taught me this. It's very hard to steer a parked car. Okay? So get into motion, or get back into motion if you've found yourself stagnant. All right, number 6, consume less and curate your reality. There's so much content out there, and online and offline, right? And you've really, really got to protect what goes in, because that is going to seriously impact how you view and perceive the world. And that in turn is going to drive the actions that you take, the types of actions that you take, and the volume of the actions that you take, and the intention that you take them with. Okay, so be very, very careful the shit that you're letting in. Be that the news, content, scrolling, drama and industry gossip and all that kind of crap. All right, make sure that you are strategically putting in positive, inspiring, uplifting content. And even more importantly than that, make sure that you are blocking out as much of the negative crap as possible, because it is just not helping you. I've been huge on this in 2024. Thinking clearer, better decisions, more focused, more energy. Most of it comes from elimination as opposed to what you actually do put in. But once you've eliminated it all and you do want to consume, be very, very intentional about it. Okay. The higher quality that you put in here is going to create higher quality outputs. All right. Most people just let anything and everything go in, and then they wonder why they're all muddled and confused. And if I go back to our previous point, they end up why they get stuck. Right. It's because they're consuming too much, and they're consuming too much shit. All right. Number 7, health is everything. I will raise my hand. I haven't prioritized this enough, and I feel like I've really, really turned a corner in Q4. My family had lots of health challenges this year, and I think it really kicked me into gear. So my plan for 2025 is to get in my best shape ever. I know it sounds like a throwaway line, New Year's resolution, whatever, but I've been aggressively hitting the gym in Q4, and I feel like I've really found a way to integrate it as best I can. And so this is going to be a huge priority for me, the gym, diet, all these kind of things for 2025, because it's easy to say, but we have these realizations. Without this, you got nothing. You got nothing. If your health isn't in check, everything else becomes secondary. Everything else is secondary. Okay. And so this has to be the priority. And even to the point of, being a bit selfish with it, right? You've got to prioritize this. Otherwise it's nothing. No one else is going to take care of it. All right. Number 8, this was a bonus one. All right, I know I said 7. Once I started writing this, there was a bonus one that I wanted to include. I think this is a really, really important lesson, particularly for young people listening to this. If you're in your early 20s or late teens, as I've said here, if I said this to 24-year-old JC, I probably wouldn't have listened. And I think a lot of this, you need to go out and experience it. I've, traveled the world, eaten in amazing places, worked in Wall Street, made a lot of money, done all this kind of shit. And look, I'm not going to say that stuff's not fun. Buying the nice watches and cars and all that. It's fun. It's cool, right? But another thing that this year really reinforced to me was that the yield, the return on that stuff versus the simple things, right? And maybe this is an age thing. I don't know. Right. But at the end of the day, for me, time with the family, good food, quality food. I like nice wine, deep conversations with good friends, the right clients, working on good projects, disciplined, being active and healthy, and being able to be there for the important moments, having the freedom to not have to report to somebody else and to be able to dictate your own calendar. this is the stuff that moves the needle like this much. The little fancy stuff, yeah, it's fun, but I think the yield is like this by comparison, right? And I think the problem is that most of what gets reported isn't this, because this isn't that sexy, right? I traveled for a week in November. I traveled for a week in December. And while I had a blast both times, I was so excited to get home and get back into this rhythm, because this is what, when you design life the right way, this is what really, really lights you up and moves the needle in a big way. Okay, so just be careful that you're optimizing the things that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to life enjoyment and life fulfillment. And I think I can say this with pretty high level of confidence, having seen a lot of people go through this evolution as well. It's nearly always the simple things that really make it tick. Okay, so there's 7 plus 1 bonus lessons, reflections from 2024. I'd be curious if you want to leave a comment. I'd love to know which one of those resonates with you most, and I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway is from the year as well. Some of these are going to be topics we're going to go deeper on in the new year, but yeah, just a few reflections from the year that was, and I'm really excited to head into the new year with you as well. Be sure to give the video a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.